So for the first one here, you're substituting in a negative, well, for both of them, we're substituting a -1 in. So for the first one, it would be 2 times -1 squared. It's very important that you follow the order of operations. So you can't multiply before you do an exponent. We will always follow PEMDAS. So exponent comes before multiplication. So what I mean is, if you try to multiply 2 times -1 first and then you square it, that's out of order. That's like putting on your clothes and then getting in the shower. It's out of order. You have to do it in order. So the first thing you're going to do is your exponent. -1 squared is +1. And then you have 2 times 1, which is 2. And 2 minus 1 is 1. Who had 1 for the first question? All right, let's look at the second question. So we have 3 times -1 plus 2 over -1 plus 1. Automatically, I know this does not exist. Because what do you get in your denominator when you add -1 plus 1? 0. So it doesn't even matter what this number is. Doesn't even matter. This 0 automatically makes your answer does not exist. All right, so we're going to simplify today. So go ahead in your note packet. I believe we're on page 3. So when you simplify, you're taking out your GCF. A GCF could be a number. So for example, 35 over 40 can be written as 5 times 7 over 5 times 8. If you cancel out the 5s, this is what you're left with. Or your GCF could be a factor. So if we factor this down, we get x plus 5, x plus 5, x plus 2. Your denominator would factor down to x minus 3, x plus 2, and what would cancel is your x plus 2. That's the GCF. So when we look at question A is already factored. It's already factored. What is my GCF? What can I cancel out? The numerator and the denominator. So when you cross that out, your final answer would be x minus 6 over x minus 1. Now, of course, we're not going to make it that easy on the test because you will have to factor something down first. So let's look at question B. Notice that in question B, they factored the denominator down. So they did the work on the bottom, but they didn't do the work on the top. So we have to factor this down. A is 1. So we don't need to make a box. Make your 2 parentheses. Put an X in front of both. Don't say it out loud, but you need 2 numbers that multiply to -2, but add to a -1. I didn't pass these out in this class period, but would anybody like a chart to help them with the factoring? I'm going to give it to everybody because we all need it. And if you don't need it, you got it, don't use it. But right now we're at this point where we got to find these numbers. We have to find these numbers. So there's only one place where you can find a 2, and that's in the ones. Well, you can find it in the 1s and the 2. But the only option we have for numbers that multiply to 2 is 1 and 2. That's literally it. 1 and 2. Which one is negative though? Because remember, when I add them, they have to equal -1. So do I make the 1 negative or do I make the 2 negative? Who says the 1? Who says 2? It's the 2. 1 minus 2 is -1. So we're going to put a +1 in one parentheses and a -2 in the other. Now that it is factored down, we can look for a GCF. So what can I cancel out? What's top and bottom? X plus 1. Let's cross it out. And that's leaving me with a final answer of x minus 2 over x minus 1. All right, let's look at question C. All right, they did the work at the top, but they didn't do the work in the bottom. So we know our top is x minus 4, x plus 3, but we don't know the bottom. Again, A is 1. So we just need to find two numbers that multiply to 6 and add to 5. So don't say it out loud. Where can we get a 6? Look on your chart if you need to. Where do you see a 6? What numbers multiply to give you 6? So we need two numbers. They're both positive. They multiply to be 6 and they add to 5. The only options we have to multiply to get 6 is 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. But which one of those pairs will add to 5? 2 times 3, and they're both positive. So put a +2 and a +3. Now that it is factored fully, we can find our GCF. So Amaya, what's the GCF? What can I cross out? That's top and bottom. Yeah, cross them out. And you have x minus 4 over x plus 2. Any questions? All right, let's look at D. Now, D is already factored. But what we have out here is what I call monomials, meaning that it's a term that doesn't have a plus or minus. You see how all of these are groups? It's x plus something or x minus something. Well, these are just plain old x's. All right, when you see an x squared, that really means you have two x's at the top. So I'm going to rewrite it. That's really what you have in the top. That's my numerator. X squared means x times x. And then we have a x plus 5 and an x minus 3. All right, in my denominator, I have a x minus 2, and an x plus 5. There are actually two GCFs that we can take away. There's two things. Johan, what's one thing that we can cross out that's top and bottom? X plus 5, let's cross it out. What else can I cross out? X. One x from the top goes away and the one x in the bottom goes away. So we're just writing what's left over. So in the numerator, I have a x times x minus 3. And my denominator is x minus 2. So my final answer is x times x minus 3 all over x minus 2. All right, let's look at question E, and then we're going to start the homework together. So this is the first time where we have to make a box because see how this has a 2. So in order to factor, we need to make a box. Let's make our box. 2y squared goes here. Negative 20 will go here. On top of the x, we're going to take 2. Figure out what 2 times negative 20 is. What is 2 times negative 20? 2 times negative 20 is negative 40. B is negative 3. So don't say it out loud. Look at your chart if you need to. We need 2 numbers. That's going to multiply to give us a negative 40 and add to negative 3. So look and see where you see 40. Where are the 40s? So look at your chart. Where do you see 40s? Where do you see 40? First place I see 40. Well, we know 1 times 40. When you look at the 2s, if you look in your 40s, do you see 40 in the 2s? So that would be 2 times 20. Do you see 40 in the 3s? Go ahead and look at your 3s. Go scan down the column. Do you see a 40 in the 3s? No. All right, go down to the 4s. Do you see a 40 in the 4s? 4 times what is 40? All right, go to the 5s. Do you see a 40 in the 5s? 5 times what? All right, so now because this is negative, I'm looking for the difference. So 20 minus 2 is 18. That's not going to work because I need the difference to be 3. 10 minus 4 is 6. That's not going to work because I need the difference to be 3. But what about 8 minus 5? Is 8 minus 5 3? So I know I'm using an 8 and a 5, but now I need to figure out which number is negative. It's the bigger number, 8. All right, so now we're going to put our negative 8y and our positive 5y. Go 2 squares at a time, taking out your GCF. So this top row, they're both even numbers. Both 2 and 8 are in the 2s because the GCF is the highest column you can go and find both numbers. So I can find both 2 and 8 in the 2s, so I can take out a 2 and a y. The denominator, 5 and 20, if you look at your chart, 5 and 20 are both in the 5s. So I could take out a 5, but it has to be positive because it's next to a positive 5. If you look at your chart, the only column where you see 2 and 5 together is 1. That's the only place where they'll be in the same column. So I'm taking out a 1 and a y, or just a y. So as far as 8, so if you look in your 2s, you see 8 and 20. But if you look in your 4s, you also see 8 and 20. You always go with the column that's the biggest. That's why it's called greatest common factor. So 4 is what I'm taking out, and it's going to be a negative 4. All right, so let's go ahead and write out what we have. So in the numerator, I have a y squared, which means I have 2 y's. And then I factored that down to get 2y plus 5 and y minus 4. And in my denominator, I have 1y. Then I have y minus 4 and y minus 3. You have to factor everything down completely in order to know what your greatest common factors are. So go ahead and cross out. There's 2 things you can cross out. Okay, so one thing I can cancel out is 1y, and I could also take away y minus 4. So what that's going to leave me is a 2. No, sorry, not a 2. Where did I get 2 from? Is a y and a 2y plus 5. So that's my numerator. Y, 2y plus 5. And in my denominator, I just have a y minus 3. All right, let's take out our homework. And I want to get you started on the homework. There should be a homework sheet behind you. Thank you. So I'm not going to do them all for you. You should have the entire front side of the homework finished today if you're serious about your grade. We only got 2 more tests left. Don't ask me for extra credit. What can I do to bring up my grade? What you can do to bring up your grade is turn in homework and pass tests. That's your only option, okay? All right, so let's look at number 6. So we have 2y plus 10 over y squared plus y minus 20. All right, the only thing we can do in the numerator is take out a greatest common factor. We're not making an x. That's the only thing we can do. What is my greatest common factor for 2y plus 10? What's the largest number? If you look in your chart, the biggest column where you see a 2 and a 10 together. Yep, we see them in the ones. And we also see it in the 2. So that means I'm dividing both of these by 2. So 2y divided by 2 is y. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. So this is what it factors down to. All right. In our denominator, we have a trinomial. So we need to actually factor that down. So go ahead. We need 2 numbers that multiply to negative 20 and add to 1. Don't say it out loud. Try to find those numbers. Whenever a is 1, we don't need to make a box. So look where you see 20. And I need 2 numbers that are 1 hop apart. So that's the hardest part, finding the numbers. Let's see who has the numbers. Good, I like that. Let's see, which one do you subtract? All right, so that should factor down to what would be our numbers? 4 and 5. Which one is negative? The 4 or the 5? The 4. So this is going to be y minus 4 and y plus 5. Now that it's factored down, we can cross out our GCFs. So Bailey, what would be the GCF that I can cancel, top and bottom? Y plus 5. Let's go ahead and cross that out, leaving me with a final answer of 2 over y minus 4. All right, let's do one more together, number 7, and then you have the rest. I don't know if I should do 7 or 5. Which one do you want to do together, 7 or 5? Yeah, let's do 7. All right, let's look at 7. So number 7 says, all right, so we have the x squared minus 16x plus 64. And then that's x minus 2. That's all over x squared minus 10x plus 16. All right, so we have some factoring to do. So the first thing we need to factor is this right here. Again, we don't need to make a box because a is 1. So I want you to find two numbers. They multiply to be 64, and they add to negative 16. So let's start off with that one first. We need two numbers that multiply to be a positive 64 and add to a negative 16. Now, because the top number is positive, that means both numbers will be negative. So it's two negative numbers. So because the bottom number, because this is a positive number, now you're looking at which ones add to be this. If it's a negative number, we're looking for the ones that subtract to be here. But because it's positive, I need numbers that would add to be 16. So what's 16? Yep, that's what we need across there. All right, so we figured out that it's two negative 8s. Did we get that? All right, so that means that what I have, factor that down. So we figured out that what I have highlighted in green is really x minus 8, x minus 8. But we cannot forget that there was already an x minus 2 there. So we got to keep that there for now. All right, take a moment, back to your denominator. So again, two numbers that multiply to a positive 16 and add to a negative 10. That means that we're looking for two negative numbers. Two negative numbers. That multiply to be positive 16, but add to a negative 10. So where do we see 16? Yeah, they both have to be negative because that's your top number is positive. Does the chart help? Okay. Look, at this point, we just got to get our credit, okay? All right, good. So that factored down to, what was our two numbers that multiplied to be positive 16 and add to a negative 10? Negative 8, negative 2. So I have x minus 8, x minus 2. So now we're ready to start taking away. There's actually two things I could take away. One thing I could take away is what? The x minus 8. Let's take away one x minus 8 though. We could take one away from the top and one away from the bottom. And then my denominator, I'm sorry. And what else can I take away? X minus 2. We could take 1 and 1. So what I'm left with, keep it a fraction. I have x minus 8 at the top. We're going to keep that there. Now, when you cross out everything, it leaves a 1. You could also just write it as x minus 8. But I don't want you to forget that it leaves a 1. All right. So homework 1 is due next week on Tuesday. I want everyone to use the rest of class to continue working on the front side of the homework. Because again, we getting close to the end, y'all. I don't want to keep harping on it, but we all need all the homework points. We need them all. Because we want to go into the final with the highest grade possible. That's the goal.